Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going to interview some ghosts about the Industrial Revolution.
Oh yeah.
OMG, why is there the old man on our couch?
And a warm welcome to you too.
Who are you and why are you here?
My name is Cornelius Vanderbilt. I died the richest man alive in 1877.
Wow, how did you get to that point?
My parents instilled a straightforward demeanor in me and taught me to work hard. I began working at the age of 11 and earned $1,000 in my first year. Money's always just come naturally to me.
Really? What kind of business did you get into to be the richest man alive?
Well, I saw that we needed a faster way to transport goods across the country, so I invested in railroads.
If you were so big, did you have any employees? How did you treat them? I heard the robber barons were really mean to their employees.
Who cares about the employees? They needed money. I was giving them the money. That's how the world works.
Were you worried about the law?
What do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power? I controlled the government. I oil bribed whoever wants to get away with anything.
Did you have any alliances? What about rivalries?
Well, they do say keep your friends close and your enemies closer. My greatest rival, Tom Scott, wanted to steal my life at John G. Rockefeller. He was supplying me with oil to ship it around the country. I had been doing it since before he was rich. Then good old Tom Scott came in and offered a better deal. I would have taken it too, but I was a man so mad Rockefeller did me like that. I made an alliance with Tom Scott. We made transporting Rockefeller and oil not so worth it. He almost blew a fuse.
How did he react?
Well, he built a tunnel system to transport his oil. That guy was so smart, he made sure trains weren't needed for oil anymore.
Wow, he must have been really mad if he did that. So, how did you die?
I had been alone in my room for 8 months and had developed several chronic illnesses. They just got to the best of me, and it wasn't unexpected though. I was an old man. I lived a long life.
That is true.
Well, I gotta go. It was nice talking to you though. Golly, who might you be?
You must be joking. I'll have you know, I'm Andrew Carnegie of the Carnegie Steel Corporation, the best steel producer in the nation.
Wow, I've heard so much about the things you've done and the people you've helped, Carnegie. This is an amazing feat. But how did you become so wealthy and powerful? That must have taken a lot of work, or maybe even inherited wealth.
Well, prepare to be surprised because I was born very poor. I worked under Tom Scott as his assistant, and as I grew up, I ended up working under Tom Scott. Seeing him as the father figure and mentor that I lacked in my life.
Oh, that's so sweet of him. But wasn't Tom Scott in the railroad industry? How did you get into making steel?
Well, it started when my mentor wanted me to build a bridge over a miles-long stretch of river into another city, but there was no material worthy of holding it up. Nothing stable enough, which was when I got the idea of steel. It took a while because I had to find a cost-proficient producer of steel, but when I found him, I hired him and put millions of dollars into the work of building this bridge. It took me many months, but when I finally finished in 1865, nobody would cross.
I see that it's still in use by many today, in the modern day. But how did you convince them to trust the bridge?
I used a very well-known premonition about elephants. It is thought that an elephant would never cross a bridge or structure that is unstable, which is why I brought an elephant to the bridge and had it cross, leading the people in society into a new age of industrialization.
Wow, that must have been amazing to see the first people cross the bridge with the elephant.
I am very proud to have been the first to achieve such a feat.
What about Tom Scott? Didn't he encourage you to build it?
Unfortunately, my mentor died 2 decades later, after having worked with me for many years. You can blame all of that on Rockefeller. It was his fault. I hate him for all he did.
Rockefeller? The oil guy?
Yes, him. After Vanderbilt broke off their deal and alliance with us, Rockefeller took out all of his oil from the train industries, giving us nothing to ship and wasting so much money. The lack of oil caused people to riot and blame Tom Scott for the whole thing. They crashed into our yards and destroyed over 200 cranes, leaving Tom Scott in such despair it killed him. I will never forgive Rockefeller for what he did.
That's horrible. Did that affect business in any way? Did you continue funding the railroad industry?
On the contrary, I turned away from railroads and put my money into steel, buying out competition and building factories. And while the law of competition may be sometimes hard for the individual, it is best for the race because it ensures the survival of the fittest in every department. But it wasn't enough. Rockefeller was still ahead of me in wealth and power, and I wanted to close that gap. So I went even further.
What were you missing that Rockefeller had? I'm not sure I understand.
Rockefeller had an edge to him, a ruthlessness that I did not have, one that destroys competition and gets what they want no matter the cost, which is why I originally hired Henry Frick. Though I came to later regret my actions, looking at the thousands he has harmed.
What could have happened for this Frick guy to be so bad?
Well, it didn't happen at first, but when I hired him, he saw my factories and worked to perfect them. Keep the people as productive as possible and do what he had to do to keep order. But he always wanted to be where I was, not a second place. We were part of high society and thriving, which is what led us to building the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. In order to mingle with our wealthy entrepreneurs, I can never forgive myself for what happened in Johnstown.
Johnstown? Like the Great Johnstown Flood? The Great Flood of 1889?
That one precisely. We ignore the calls of the people against this all, and they were used to the warning and ignored them. And when it finally happened, around 2,200 people died, leaving the town half submerged and ruined, destroying many homes and ruining lives. All because we were too greedy, which is why I turned to right my wrongs.
How noble of you to accept responsibility. Did anyone else share that notion with you?
They all pleaded not guilty when faced by the public, and so did I. But that doesn't change what had happened. I donated around $10,000 to help with repairs.
That's around $380,000 in my time. Wow, that's so much money.
As time went on, I saw many people fighting for labor rights in the factories and knew that Frick had to take charge. I trusted him to lead the company in a good direction, keeping up production and doing what had to be done. It was for the good of the company. At least that's what I thought would happen.
Thought? I don't know much about this guy, but he must be horrible.
It ruined me. My image was wrecked and he killed many people. Oh, how could I have been so naive? What Frick did wasn't my fault. I would never do that, ever.
Well, what did he do? You still haven't exactly told me yet.
I'm sorry, it's just so hard to look back at the things he did. I can't believe I told him to do what he thought best with the situation. That monster.
Yes, go on.
Well, it all started when the ideas of workers' rights and unions spread to the workers of our factory. I knew I didn't have the courage or strength to do what needed to be done, so I went on a vacation to my homestead in Pennsylvania in order to have Frick do what he needed to do without affecting my image. He decided that he would hire the Pinkmans, an army for hire, who were able to outgun even the U.S. military. They were originally just to scare the factory workers into backing out of their protests, but they wouldn't step down. It escalated even further when they started from behind the barricade that they had made out of planks of wood. And when the first Pinkman was hit, they opened fire upon the mass. This was called the Homestead Massacre, killing 7 workers and injuring many others. It was a disaster. Fricker was an enemy of the people and they wanted revenge for his actions. So much so that one man tried to assassinate him and failed. I tried to clear up the mess between us, and the only thing he said was, "I'll see you in hell."
Oh wow, that is horrible. Thank you for telling us your story and how you dealt with the Industrial Revolution.
Who are you?
Who am I? Who are you?
Wait, are you Frick? Henry Frick?
Good to know that my name is stuck around.
I've actually never heard of you before until like 10 minutes ago. You work for Carnegie, right?
I was the right chairman of Carnegie Steel. I made it more productive than it ever was, cutting costs, eliminating waste. I was the best thing that the company ever had, and what did I get for it? almost assassinated.
Well, you did overwork the workers.
Overwork? How else were we going to keep up with production? Carnegie partnered with me because I could make decisions, but he couldn't. That's why he ran off to Pennsylvania and let me take the fall for what he wanted to do. And now look at all the schools and the library he's erected in his name.
Well,
And all I ever heard was unions, rights, yada yada. But you know what? That's why they're there, to work to keep up the production going. That's how the world goes round.
and you never felt bad? I mean, like, these were people too.
Felt bad? Why would I ever feel bad? There was quotas to be met and money to be made. They should have been grateful for what we were giving them. Otherwise, they'd be beggars on the streets. You know what? They would say, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. I hate to break it to them, but there aren't enough hours in a day for that.
What, so you basically thought that they were indispensable as long as they made you money?
You know what? Carnegie was just the same. All of them were. They just set out to make money. You really think that when Carnegie hired me, he was thinking, man, I really hope my workers are all paid well and have short shifts so they can all get the time they need to get their sleep in. No, he only really cared about surpassing Rockefeller. And you know what he believed? Still, what everyone still believes? That he was such a great guy. He felt bad for Johnstown, so he built schools and gave the people something good to remember him for.
Well, isn't that what a good person does?
He only did it for his reputation. That's the difference between Carnegie and me. He hid behind people while I did the thing that kept the company going. I told Carnegie I'd see him in hell for what he put me through.
Huh. You said that you said that. Well, it was nice to hear your side of the story, I guess.
As it should be. Hi, nice to meet you. You are?
I am John D. Rockefeller. I made Standard Oil.
No way, I heard about you earlier from Carnegie.
Isn't there a reason I'm here aside from Carnegie?
Ah, yes. How did you create the Standard Oil Company?
Well, I started a little local oil refinery. My partner and I were really struggling with business. Nobody trusted oil at the time because of all the fires caused by oil. Business was rough at the time, and I thought all the oil that was wasted, just binding away at it until the pressure makes it explode, which gave the idea of refining it. If we could refine the oil, it would make more and it would be safe to use. With that in mind, where would I sell this oil? There's nobody local who would buy it all. Then the idea came to me. The railroads. I could sell them to someone who owns railroads and sell them all over the area and benefit from them.
Which railroad did you use then? There must have been many options.
Well, I wasn't the one to propose the idea. It was Vanderbilt himself who asked to ship my oil on a reduced price of only 40%. He only agreed because I said I'd fill up all the train codes. But I could barely fill one at the time. So I had to hustle, buy out broken or failing refineries and use them to increase production. By the time I had finished, I had so much oil, even Vanderbilt couldn't ship it all. I got into an agreement with Tom Scott to ship my oil as well. My business was booming, and I was quickly becoming successful. So successful that Vanderbilt cut our deal. I now had to pay full price for him to ship my oil. Tom Scott and Vanderbilt had made an alliance against me and my power. I believe the power to make money is a gift from God, just as are the instincts for art, music, literature, the doctor's talents, the nurse, yours, to be developed and used to the best of our ability for the good of mankind. Having been endowed with the gift I possess, I believe it's my duty to make money, and still more money, and to use the money I make for the good of my fellow man, according to the dictates of my conscience. And for them to betray me is not taken lightly.
Carnegie mentioned the tape for you earlier after what you did. Was what he said really true? Did you really do that?
I'm not sure I understand what you're referencing, but I decided to completely pull all of my oil out of the railroads and resort it to other sources of transportation to move it. What came after as consequences for them is what they deserve. They tried to take me down and failed. And that's just how the world is. When Carnegie says this kind of rivalry and competition ensures survival of the fittest. It just happens that Scott and Vanderbilt didn't survive. With the times, I had to change the way that people saw oil, so I changed my company from Rockefeller Oil to Standard Oil to make it seem safer and normal. This also helped increase production.
That is very brutal, what you said about the consequences, but I find the advertising thing very interesting, because now it seems like it's not just about your oil, but the oil of the people using your product. You mentioned modes of transportation. What exactly did you use?
Well, I gained inspiration from the pipes that we have inside our houses and wondered if we could do that on such a small scale, wouldn't we be able to do it on a larger one as well? So I made pipelines all around New York and sent oil through those pipelines. By that time, I'd become the richest man alive.
That is very impressive. Were you ever affected by the workers' union?
Not at all. I made sure they were fed, rested, and treated well for their productivity out of all of them. Unlike some other people, I never had any trouble with workers' unions.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for your time.
Wow, finally, a woman. Who are you?
Well, my name is Mary Harris Jones, but I'm more commonly referred to as Mother Jones.
Tell me about yourself.
Well, I migrated from Ireland to Toronto as a little girl and eventually ended up in America for work. And I found the love of my life. He was amazing and we had 4 children.
Wow. Tell me more about your family.
Well, they all died due to a yellow fever epidemic. I was heartbroken.
Yeah, I think I'd be too. What happened after their death?
I moved to Chicago and lost everything I owned in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. All this grievance reminded me that I needed to pray for the dead and fight like hell for the living. So to get over the pain, I joined the Knights of Labor. I wanted to help the little guys who were barely getting by because it's all taken and no given.
That's really honorable.
Thank you. I led and took a part in so many strikes, I can't even remember them all. All I ever dreamed of was everyone being heard and having a chance to be equal. That's my American dream.
Wow. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Anytime, just remember the importance of speaking up for what you believe in.
Whoa, why are you so dirty?
I'm a mine worker, like down in the earth, surrounded by dirt.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean that.
Yeah, well, mine work was tough. In fact, probably the most difficult job out there. It's full of back-breaking labor and long, brutal hours.
How did you die? Was it because of the mines or?
It was from breathing in all the coal dust. I got black lung disease and died because of it.
So I'm assuming you weren't really living the American dream?
No. We lived in company towns where they paid us in company rent, which we were to use in company stores and buy things with inflated prices. It was completely unfair.
Sounds like it should have its own government.
It basically did. We didn't have rights of speech or assembly. Our mail was censored, and if we protested, our family would be punished.
You couldn't do anything about it?
Oh, we sure tried. We joined unions, but for the most part, the government was always on the side of the company owners. Whatever happened to helping the American people? Instead, they work us to our deaths in the name of profit. In the Declaration of Independence, didn't it say that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness?
Yeah, and you guys weren't getting to do what made you happy. Instead, you were working tirelessly for people who didn't even know who you were.
Exactly, which is why the mine wars happened. There was constant uprising and strike.
I think I heard about one a while back, like Mount Blair or Battle Mountain.
Battle of Blair Mountain, an army of 10,000 miners were there that day against a company police force. Unfortunately, many died that day fighting in vain because when the U.S. Army showed up, they restored order. But nothing had really changed. We were still voiceless and unheard. I never really got to experience the American dream. Anyway, I think another ghost is trying to contact you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm a factory worker, but I wasn't always working in a city as a city dweller. I grew up in the countryside on a farm, but ever since mechanical reapers and the like were introduced to the craft, I had to sell my farm and move to the city to find work.
How was factory life and work?
Factory working was exhausting. We were forced to work up to 12 to 14 hours a day to keep up with the production quota. I rarely ever got to spend time with my family. It was also very dangerous, and many of us died on the job.
What was it like to be monitored all the time like that?
It was awful. We were controlled by a clock and rarely allowed to take breaks. And there was always work. Work until we die so another could take our job.
What was your take on the American dream? Did you think it was realistic?
The Industrial Revolution killed the American dream. It was no longer for work for yourself to succeed. There were two types of lives. You either had people working for you to make money, or you were working for somebody else to make them money.
So it was a lose-lose type of situation for the workers. What type of factory did you work in?
I worked in one of Carnegie's steel factories.
What did you think of Carnegie?
Carnegie? What did I think of Carnegie? You know, he built all those libraries and schools with his name all over them. But that's all it ever really was. He only wanted to protect his image of him and make him seem to be like a good guy.
So you didn't like him?
No, I didn't. He nearly worked us all to death, and even behind his frick, things went sideways. Carnegie is a really greedy coward, and so are the rest of all those robber barons, if you ask me.
Wow, I mean, I knew they were bad, but I didn't realize how bad.
Yeah, that life wasn't for the weak. Anyway, my time is up. I think I gotta go.
Wow, I feel so informed about the Industrial Revolution.
Who are you? Why are you talking to yourself?
Wow, your accent is so cool. Where are you from?
Russia, obviously.
What's your connection to the Industrial Revolution?
Well, I was a leading member of the anarchist movement of the early 20th century.
Were you like a real anarchist then? Did you believe in no government?
No, we were called the anarchists because we didn't believe in what the robber barons were doing and how they had power to control the government. When we saw injustice, we acted against it.
Did you ever attack anyone specifically?
I did, Henry Frick, that Ron booger. He treated his workers so badly that he even hired the penguins to attack the employees who were on strike. Not only were the working conditions dangerous, but he shot at his workers too, so I tried to assassinate him. I nicked his neck, but when I tried to shoot him again, my gun jammed. I ended up in prison, but it was worth it to try and help the people.
Wow, that's so interesting. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I learned a lot about you and the anarchists.
Well, I gotta go.
We believe that the Industrial Revolution killed the American dream for a lot of workers, but also gave a lot of hope that with some change, people would be able to live a happy and fulfilling life.
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening.